Hello friends, welcome again. Friends, in today's video lecture, we want to understand William Henry Hudson and his three theories of studying literature. We know that W.H. Hudson has written a book entitled as An Introduction to the Study of Literature. Friends, in this book, he has suggested the students how you can approach literature, how you can study literature, or how you can understand the works and mind and personality of the authors. Okay, and these three methods of studying literature are comparative method, historical method, and chronological method. But before we move ahead, friends, I request you to please subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get the notifications. Okay, now let's begin, friends. As I told you, Hudson has written this book, An Introduction to the Study of Literature. And here he has discussed poetry, drama, novel, and different forms and genres of literature. But when we are studying literature as a beginner, the question that comes before us is how to study literature, how to start studying literature, or how to understand the works of the author in a better manner. For that, Hudson has suggested different three methods of studying literature, and they are comparative, historical, and chronological methods. So, let's begin with comparative method. As the students of literature, we must develop a wide view of the authors and his works. Okay, say for example, if you want to understand light, you need to understand what is darkness. If you want to understand what is east, you need to understand what is west, because by comparing only you understand the value of that particular idea, person, or thing. So, friends, in literature also we can compare one author with the other author, one literature with the other literatures, right? By comparison, we make our doubts clear and we try to understand the works and the authors in a better manner. Now, this comparison or comparative method of studying literature can be done at different levels, right? Number one, you can compare the author's works with his other works. Like one author does not write only one work, okay? Say for example, William Shakespeare has written Hamlet, which is a tragedy, and you can compare Shakespeare's Hamlet with his another tragedy, Macbeth or Othello or King Lear. Okay. In the same manner, if you want to understand Marlowe's, materialism found in his plays, then you can understand, you can study and compare four tragedies written by Christopher Marlowe: Dr. Faustus, Jew of Malta, Edward II, and Tamburlaine. Because in all these four tragedies written by the single author Christopher Marlowe, you find the element of materialism. So you can compare different works written by the same author. Number two, you can compare the author's works with his contemporaries also. For example, in order to understand metaphysical poetry written by John Donne, you need to understand the contemporaries like Andrew Marvell, George Herbert, and all other poets who were living in England during the same period of time in the first half of the 17th century. So, understanding John Donne, for that you need to understand Andrew Marvell's poetry also, George Herbert's poetry also. So you can compare one author's works with the works of the other authors who lived during the same period of time. Okay. Third comparison can be done on a larger scale. For example, you can compare literature of one nation or one language with the literature of the other nation or other language. Okay. Say for example, if you want to understand the sonnets written by William Shakespeare or the sonnets written by John Milton during the 16th and 17th century, you first of all you can compare Shakespeare and Milton's sonnets with the sonnets written by Petrarch. Okay, Petrarch was living during the 14th century in Italy, and you can compare Italian sonnets with English sonnets written by Shakespeare and John Milton. So this is how also you can come to a conclusion which one is better and which one is not better, right? So comparing at these three different levels. Number one, comparing the author's works with his own other works. Number two, the comparison of one author with the other author who lived during the same period of time, and comparing one literature with the other literature. For example, you can compare English drama with French drama. Okay, so this is how you make your understanding clearer by doing comparison at different levels. Now we come to the discussion of the second method discussed by William Henry Hudson, and that second method of studying literature is historical method. Now the word itself tells us what this method is. Historical means to study the history of literature. Okay, why? Because the author's works can be understood in a best manner by studying various external forces which shape his mind and personality, because no author lives in vacuum. Okay, everybody is the result of the age in which he is living, right? The author's works are mostly influenced by different ideals, different philosophies of the time, of the age during which he is living. Okay, so the style in which a particular writer writes is not just an accident, right? You must have observed that William Shakespeare's dramas are different and T.S. Eliot's plays are different. Why? Because Shakespeare lived during the 16th century and Eliot lived during the 20th century. So time plays an important role to influence the mind and personality of the author. Okay, it has a close connection with the age in which he lives. Style is the index of personality, and the personality of the writer is shaped by the happenings which take place around him. Let me give you an example. For example, Carlyle wrote in the age of Romantic Revival. We all know that, right? In the beginning of the 19th century, Carlyle wrote his prose, right? Prose literature. And that's why his prose literature, if you examine, is not of a classic nature. Most of his prose written by Carlyle is romantic by nature. Why? The answer is that he was living in the period of Romantic Revival. Okay, if you examine the literature of the 18th century, most of the writers wrote classical kind of literature. Why? Because 18th century is known as the age of neoclassicism. Okay, so the point is that the age in which the author writes and lives has a great influence on the author, and that's why in order to understand the author's works you need to understand and study the history of that particular period. So as the students of literature we must have some basic reading, some basic knowledge about different periods in the history of English literature, starting from the 14th century, Geoffrey Chaucer, 16th century, William Shakespeare and others, 17th century, John Milton and John Donne, and 18th, 19th and 20th century. You must study the whole history of English literature, how different influences took place, major literary movements of those periods, major literary theories of those periods. Okay, so that is called historical study of literature. And the third one is the chronological method of studying literature. Friends, chronology means what? Chronology means the order in which the events take place. Say for example, I brushed my teeth, I took bath, I got ready and I went to the college. Okay, these four events took place in proper order. So which event took first and which event took place second? So you have to understand the chronology of the events. In literature, we know that no author's life is static and stable. Okay, every author's mind and personality, his theories, his philosophy of life, his ideals keep on changing from time to time. Okay, so if you want to understand the author's works and his personality, you need to understand and study his works chronologically. Which work was written by him first, which was his second work, which was his third work, which was his later work, and so on. Say for example, John Donne. Okay, if you want to understand the mind and personality of John Donne as a poet, then you can see that when he was a young man, he wrote so many hundreds of love poems. Okay, why? Because he was young. But later on, when he grew older, he started writing divine poems. He started writing religious poems. Why? Because a change occurred in his mind and personality, and that change is visible in his works, in his poems. Okay, so if you want to understand the work, the author's personality, you need to understand what changes took place all throughout his life and how these changes influenced his works, his different works, and all these things will make your ideas clear in your mind. So friends, here we come to the end of this discussion. I hope all these three methods are clear to you. If you still have any doubts or questions, do write to me in the comment section of this channel, and if you really liked the video, please share this video among your friends and classmates. Thank you very much.